VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, SUMIFs, and a bunch of other formulas in Excel. You don't actually need to know them anymore because you can pretty much solve everything only using pivot tables. And I'm actually going to show you why I mean that. In this case, I have a very real example, practical example with a logistics dataset. But of course, you could also use a different dataset. Let's say a human resources dataset, purchasing, sales, production, a hospital dataset, doesn't matter, right? In my case, I have a logistics dataset. Each row represents a different freight, a different transaction. And basically, I want to summarize the total freight cost and also the insurance cost and the grand total by segment. The problem is I don't have the segment information right here in this tab, in this sheet. The only thing I have is the customer ID. So based on the customer ID, for example, customer 22, I can retrieve the segment, because in a separate sheet that is in the second one right here, customer info, I can look up for customer 22 that is in this row and check for their segment, government in this case. What I can do if I was using formulas in Excel, a VLOOKUP or a XLOOKUP or a index match formula to, based on the customer ID, return their segment. So customer ID is my criterion. And on top of that, I would also need to use SUMIF or SUMIFS to adapt only the values I'm looking for accordingly to the criteria: freight cost, insurance cost, and grand total. But this is a problem. Imagine to remember all those formulas, know how to use those formulas, and try to set up everything together. We don't even need to do it anymore because we can solve this whole problem with pivot tables. The main idea, focus of this video is to show how to use pivot table instead of using the VLOOKUP formula or XLOOKUP or any lookup formula in Excel. So let's get started. The first thing we need is to have a data set, of course. And in this case, I'm going to leave this whole workbook in the description for free. You click and download it. Then you come right back to follow the steps with me. We basically have two tabs, logistics and customer info, or the two information that we need to combine, couple together, right? Instead of doing VLOOKUP, right? And of course, I have only one workbook in Excel, but if you have a second one, a third one, a fourth one, doesn't matter, because you can combine, connect those tabs. You can, of course, do it. It's the same process. The first step is to have a data set. Of course, we already have the data set. So the second step is to convert the whole range into a table in Excel, because a table has many benefits that I'm going to show you guys in just a second. But let's first click, hold, and drag throughout the whole data set to convert it into a real table. Go all the way here to insert, click on table, and make sure within this dialog box you mark the checkbox, my table has headers, because of course we have shipment ID, order date, delivery date, and etc. Those are our headers. Click OK. Now we have a table in Excel. And on top of that, I think it's kind of important to go to table design, and all the way here to the left, let's change its name. Instead of table 1, that is a generic name, let's give it a meaningful name. And in this case, I want to give a name that is, let's say, logistics underscore. I'm using underscore because when you are labeling, I don't know if this word even exists, but when you are giving a name to a certain table, you cannot use a space to separate the words. So logistics underscore data. Let's say, I think it's good enough. Enter. Okay. Now we need to do the same process to the second tab that we have, to the second sheet, to the second workbook. Everything needs to be a table because it's going to be easier. Now click, hold, and drag all the way down. And then we can go to insert, the same process as before. Okay. And let me give it a name such as customers. I think just customers are good enough, right? Or on top of that, customer info. Enter. That's it. Okay, now we have 2 tables in Excel, but as I said, we could also have 3 tables, 4 tables, 5 tables, and etc. And why a table is important in Excel? Because every time you add a new information, let me show you here. Right now I have 927 rows. But if I go to the 90th, 28th row, let's say, add here a new information, so shipment slash triple zeros 927, enter. Excel is going to automatically give me a new row, and this new row is already appended to the table. So the range automatically updates. So this is why I think it's very important to use a table, because before we have only until this 927 row. Now we have 928 rows. The range updates automatically. And this is very important because we don't need to think about, oh, I did a formula that is considering only 100 rows as the range. Now the table increases its length, so I need to also update the range and etc. You don't need to think about it, because when we have tables in Excel, the range updates automatically for both formulas or pivot tables. Okay, now we have 2 tables, and what we need to do is we need to insert a pivot table, but with a special check, with a special mark, that is insert pivot table. We have this traditional dialog box, but we are going to use a not so common checkbox. That is this one. Add this data to the data model. Yes, for sure, I want to do that. So click on this option and then go to OK. Excel is going to open up a new tab for you. Of course, it doesn't seem that different, but the main difference is here to this right panel. Instead of only have the columns of our original table, now we can collapse the information by looking to the table name and also expand the informations. But something interesting is right here. If you change the view to all, you can look up for the 2 tables that you have, customer info and also logistics data. And to make sure we can connect those 2 tables, of course, we can use the data from those 2 tables, but they're not related already. They're not related still. So what we need to do is we need to find a common column in both. And this column maybe is the customer ID, because if we take a look on both tables that we have the customer ID. The name, okay, the name doesn't need to be the same, okay? The name could be different, doesn't matter. The important thing is the informations that we have. We have customer 22 right here and all the other customers, the names of the customers, and we have the same information within this column right here, the column B. So column B in one table is actually the same to the column D of the other table. And this is important because we can make the connection. We know that the customer 9 that we have right here is the same customer 9 that we have on the other table. And something on top of that, just a matter of fact, if we click on the filter and let's look for only one certain customer, let's say customer number 3, and then okay. We have multiple appearances for this customer, but it's okay, it doesn't matter because this is the transaction table. Of course, we could have many different rows, and it's okay. The interesting thing is all those customers number 3 are going to have the same customer segment, manufacturing, for example. So we can do this connection based on this criteria. Let me undo the filter, the sorting, clear filter. Okay, that's it. Now let me go back to the pivot table. And before we connect here the dots, let's go to the pivot table itself. Make sure you are within the pivot table range and go to pivot table analyze, and let's create a relationship that is basically the idea that we just saw. Click on new, and then I want to first, we have 2 fields to choose from the tables. The first field that we have here at the top is actually where you have all the transactions. Let's say if you are doing a VLOOKUP, a XLOOKUP, etc., where you are doing the XLOOKUP. So basically, this is the table you need to select from here, where you are doing the formula. In this case, the first table is the largest one, the logistics data, where we have a lot of repeated rows. And related table is where we have only unique values, such as customer info. Basically, the customer info, this second field, is where the VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, index match, any lookup formula is going to look for the information to return. And the column we want to connect is going to be the customer ID. That's it. Customer ID right here, and also customer ID down below. Click OK. And then that's it. Close the panel. Now we connect the dots. Now let's think about what type of analysis we want to do here. And in my case, I want to analyze by the customer segment. That is a very interesting information that I did not have within the logistics data. So let me go back to customer info, take the customer segment, click, hold, and drag within rows. And why should I use the rows fields instead of filters, columns, and values? Because by using the rows, the pivot table is going to organize one segment on top of another. It creates a list. And I think it's easier to analyze just because of that, because of the layout. Now let's say I want to know how much I have for retail, for healthcare, for education, and etc. I can go back to my tables, and within customer info, I don't have any value to be used. Let's say I want to know the ground freight total. I don't have this information right here within the customer's info, but I have in the second table. So let me take the freight cost, total cost right here. Click, hold, and drag within values. Now, if we go back to the pivot table, Excel, by the pivot table, properly connect the dots, and we know exactly how much we have for education, for food services, and etc. And of course, we can check if it's right. We can use the VLOOKUP formula to check whether or not this result is correct. We can do it in just a second. But on top of this, the grand total of the freight, I also want to see another information that is maybe the freight cost, insurance cost. Let's take insurance cost, click, hold, and drag within values. And maybe the total cost, I also want to do something similar, but click, hold, and drag again. And instead of only see the sum of the total cost, I want to change. So click on this field, go to value field settings. Now I want to do the average. And on top of that, let me change the number format to currency. To just adds here, to adds the dollar sign. Click OK, OK again, and yeah, that's it. Now it's easier to see everything, but something is weird here. The formatting maybe is not working. Let me try it again for the total cost. Let me go to the total cost, value field settings. I want to use a accounting format this time. Let's say OK, OK again. OK, now it's working. Let me do this to all those fields that I have. Number format, accounting format. OK, yeah, it's working. Maybe it was a misclick. I don't know. Accounting. OK, OK, yeah, everything is working properly. Now I know the grand total, the insurance cost, and also the average of the freight for all those different segments that I have. But how can we know if it's correct? Because if we take a look on the logistics dataset itself, I don't have the segment. So how can I check if it's whether or not it's correct? What we can do just to make sure it's correct, we can go all the way here to the right, maybe on the column Q, and we can use here the VLOOKUP formula to retrieve the segment. So VLOOKUP segment, enter. Let me increase the width of this column, and equals VLOOKUP, double click within the formula, in the formula, want to select it. Lookup value, I want to look up, what is my criteria? I want to look up for the first customer that I have, that is the customer 22, comma. My table array is going to be the second sheet, and I need to start on column B because this is where my criteria starts. Click, hold, and drag until the column I want to retrieve, that is the customer segment, comma. As I select those two columns, the first is going to be the customer ID, the number one, and the second is the customer segment. So I need to insert within the formula bar as the column index number argument the number 2, because I want to return the second column, comma, and I want to have a exact match. Double click, 1, 2, and then hit enter. Okay, yeah, it seems to work. What I want to do now, let's compare the information and see if it's correct. Let's say we have for education 309,000 roughly, right? $309,000. If I go to the logistics and only filter the education and then go to OK, let me select this whole column where I have the total cost. Click just right here in the header when you guys see the black down arrow pointing down. And go to the footer of Excel, we can go the addition to those values. Right here we have the sum, 309, and we can also compare the cents, 35 cents. If we go back to the pivot table, we have exactly 35 cents. So it's working. We did here a VLOOKUP within the pivot table. And on top of that, we use a SUMIF formula to add up the values, only the values we are looking for, to add up with a certain criteria. And the cool thing about using pivot table is we don't need to know how to do a VLOOKUP formula. We don't need to know how to use a SUMIF formula because we can solve everything by this small layout of the pivot table. And just a matter of fact, when we use those type of connections, when we are using one table coupled with another one by the pivot table, we actually, even if you don't know what is going on with this tool, it's called Power Pivot, okay? The Power Pivot is the tool responsible to connect two separate tabs or tables within just one single pivot table. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video on how to properly use pivot tables in Excel, because we are used to use pivot tables just for simple stuff, but no, pivot tables are very powerful. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions or any suggestions to the next videos, let me know, comment down below, and I see you in the next one.